welcome back to the Dungeon of Bad Decisions. This is the 48th installment of Anna Attempts to Explain Things. I'm your host, Anna, and this week's topic is dice. Okay, so I've been playing tabletop games for about 6 or 7 years now, and I have seen a lot of dice. I've played a lot of games. I own a lot of dice. Some might say I own too many dice. There's about £1.5 pounds in here. It's a lot of dice, I guess. But what have I also seen? The most interesting thing I've seen is probably the things people think about their dice. The weirdest one is probably, I knew a guy in college who was absolutely convinced that his dice hated him. Like, had the sentient ability to hate him. He only ever bought them in sets, and once he assigned a set to a character, he never swapped it out. He never borrowed dice. He never loaned them out. Nobody else was allowed to touch his dice. You never got near his dice, otherwise he got really upset. On a lesser note, there's the very common idea that, switching dice when you're rolling poorly, switching it will make it roll better. And it's pervasive for a reason. Usually you switch a die. For whatever reason, it rolls better, at least in my experience. Another one that I prescribe to is arranging your d20s so that the 20 is facing up. There's a variation where it's just the 1, I guess in the hopes that, for me, it's in the hopes that if you leave the 20 facing up, maybe it'll roll better. Or if you leave the 1 facing up, it's like getting the bad rolls out, which is another one. Like when you test roll, that, again, another one. We're just going down a rabbit hole of dice superstitions. When you test roll before a game to see which dice are rolling better, and then you're getting the bad rolls out. If they're rolling poorly, you're rolling 2s and 3s in this die, but you're rolling really well on this one. Immediately you stop rolling if you roll like a 19 on that one, or even a 15 sometimes, depending on how optimistic or pessimistic or how lucky you tend to be. You keep rolling until it rolls well, and then you stop. Otherwise you're going to lose all the good rolls. Which is statistically ridiculous, but, we do it anyways. Another one, I've known people who warming up your dice in your hands, like holding them for a few seconds, or like giving them to the person with the hottest hands to hold, will help. That's gotten me out of a crunch a couple times. I had a friend with really warm hands. I have poor circulation, so my hands are really chilly. So, I held my dice in my hands. They gave it to me. I blew on them. That's another one. Blowing on dice, but I think that's not just D&D. That's, also a gambling thing that I've seen. Blowing on them to make them roll better, warming them up, whispering sweet things to them. Matt from, several of my campaigns, currently DMing one right now, the Journey of the Cursed King. He has this one die that he bought in a blue speckle set, actually, that, a lot of people have. It's a pretty common sight. I think I have one, actually. But all the rest of the dice are fine, but the D20 loathes him. It rolls fine or well or average for everybody else, but it rolls terribly for him. He cannot roll well except once in a blue moon. Less common than a blue moon, probably. Except for one time we had one of the other players, when he first got it and first realized the die was cursed, he gave it, this guy's a dad. He has kids. He gave it a stern talking to in a very dad fashion, and the die rolled well for about 2 rolls. Got 16 and 17, and then it was just I'm back to being an asshole. Yeah. But it rolls well for everyone else. I personally don't like using other people's dice, and I always use physical dice. I never use digital rollers if I can avoid it. I don't know why. I just don't like doing it. I don't I won't have the right damage dice out or whatever, and I'll be digging through and people will be like, here's my D8s. I have them out, and I'll be like, no, I want mine. Don't ask me why. I have the D8s. I have so many of them. I have 30 D20s. I have God knows how many D8s. I counted once, but I lost the paper. A friend of mine bought me a pound of randomly selected dice off Amazon. And I wasn't a huge fan of that because I like to hand select my dice. I guess that's another superstition. But I took it because it's yeah, no, stop. I totally don't want all these dice. Because at the time I had 1 set of dice, maybe 2. I was like, no, stop. And he goes, yeah, sure, here, why not? And he sent them to me, and now I have a pound of dice, and now I've got £1.5 pounds because I like dice, and I like shiny things. If you've seen my first episode of Cat vs. Tabletop, that now abandoned, now canceled series, link, I guess, up here in the banner, you'll see all of my dice. I have so many dice. And you'll also see my cat, and he's cute. Say hi to the internet, Sebastian. Hi, internet. So yeah, that's dice superstitions. That's the weird mythology people have around dice. I once knew a guy who was very adamantly insistent that there was no such thing as dice, that like none of the like he was just very adamant that it was all statistics. Like every time somebody brought it up, he went, "No, it's not." But like he had to like a little smile, so it wasn't like awful, so we didn't like get mad at him about it, I guess. He wasn't terribly unlikable, so I guess we let him do it. But it was just he was just super insistent about it. I counted once, but you know, I lost the paper. Hang on. Hello. If you enjoyed this video, check out more content in the links in the description below for the Dungeon Bad Decisions Discord server, and my blog where I post quotes, anecdotes, and photos from the tabletop games I play in at thedungeonofbaddecisions.tumblr.com, and to support my Patreon. Special thanks again to Crunchy Chompy for being a Game Master's Nightmare, and to Polygon and Tark for being average adventurers. Click here to check out the rest of the series, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Roll 20s, y'all!